Nelly refuses to apologize for his Trump support, and he's doubling down on it. What up? I'm Sean, Lonegevity with Bringing Down the Band, and also the New Old Heads podcast, and this is my Unpacked series. Today I'm going to go a little bit deeper on Nelly and his statements, essentially doubling down on him performing at Trump's inauguration event, now that he's on like a press run with him and Ashanti or whatever the thing is that they're doing. So let's break this down a little bit.
I've got 2 words.
Sure.
Gotcha. Where's Ja? Because ultimately, for me, this is that. It's Ja Rule talking about politics.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a
Nelly has come out and defended Trump. And I think that's actually kind of a good point. Like, this isn't like somebody that we expect to come out and have like this great opinion on the state of things. I mean, it's Nelly, in about way.
Again.
Yeah, I mean, not directly, but he doubles down on his choice to perform at the Trump event that happened, was it around the inauguration?
It was basically during the inauguration, yes.
Yeah. So he has called out supporters of Kamala Harris as he continues to face backlash for supporting at an event for Donald Trump's inauguration. And he also has said stuff along the lines of, me and Snoop do more for the community and have been doing so for over 20 plus years.
Bring Snoop into the mess.
Snoop
like,
already
what the hell you
saved
say
his
my
face.
name for?
Yeah, Snoop already saved his face. Yeah.
He also said on Instagram, some of y'all have a problem with us because the prosecutor, Kamala, who has probably locked up more black men than we've helped women of color with, the white husband and white kids do not win the election. This is one of the worst statements ever to read. Like, I tried to make sense of it in real time, but it just didn't make any sense. I don't fully understand that, but I understand it. Like, this it's not a very good sentence, but
Yeah, he didn't use ChatGPT to write this. You can tell.
yeah, that's true. He added, I did not campaign for anyone. I do not tell people who to vote for. I respect and love our country from top to bottom, good and bad. I'll just say that, like, if your country's doing some stuff that is not cool, one of the freedoms that we have as citizens of the United States, and is fought for by our military, if you will, is the freedom to speak up when politicians are doing dumb shit. You don't accept it just because the country's good. You work to make the country better. And I'm very aware that it's a lot of things we need to work on. The right is too right and the left is too left.
What?
I agree with that part.
Let's talk about it.
The right is the right and the left is the left.
The
It's
right
too
is
far.
too right and the left is too left.
Let's talk about it then. One of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this one was because I was doing a lot on this show. And so I don't want to say like I blacked out, because I didn't black out when I was having the conversation, but I was doing so much that I don't really remember saying a lot of the stuff that I said. So now that I have more of a clear head, I can kind of break it down a little bit more. But the main thing to consider in this particular statement about the left being too left and the right being too right is that in the United States of America, we don't really have a left. If you're referencing it in relation to Democrat and Republican, sure, we have left Democrats and right Republicans. And I'm pretty sure that's probably what Nelly is referencing here. But liberalism and liberals are not left in the ideology sphere. Right down that middle there is kind of where Bernie Sanders sits. He's kind of in the center. Capitalism, socialism. We don't have any of this. We have nothing close to this in the United States of America. The Democratic Party is actually closer over here. Okay, it's actually a capitalist, big business entity, if you will. And I like to correct this statement about the left being too crazy because it's important if we ever want to have any type of balance, you start understanding what actual leftism actually is. Anyways.
Okay. See, the thing is, I wish everyone was as transparent as Soulja Boy. Because Soulja Boy said, hey, man, I did it for the check. Nobody else called me.
Yeah.
And I wish Nelly and Snoop would have said, I did it for the check.
Snoop kind of did, though.
I mean, yeah, I think he said something like that on the Breakfast Club. But I think the thing that's most problematic and bothersome is he starts to run with these talking points that are kind of from people in the margins, if you will. Like, well, she got that white husband and she was a prosecutor and threw all these black men in jail. Mm-hmm. And it's like, these are all things that have been debunked. I mean, she does have a white husband.
Yeah.
But, Nelly, you are in the entertainment industry and you are around a lot of athletes. You know, that's not really the thing you should be bringing up is people who are married to non-black, who have a non-black spouse.
Yeah.
If you ever look at like a lot of these athletes, like every single one of their wives, I mean, not everyone, but it's just like black man with a white woman. Just saying.
I think that's it. She was trying to make that a shot against Kamala's character.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help the argument, I think, is the main. It's not doing what you think it's doing. Like, it riles up the right wing base a little bit, but like, it's not making the statement that you think that it's making.
And I think that is, you know, really bad. And I think that's a poor choice of words, you know, because it's like, okay, if you have a problem politically with her, then be more specific and more learned about the things that she has done that you politically do not agree with.
Yep.
Okay. That'd be like if somebody asked me about Nelly's music and I said, Nelly's teeth look like baby shoes. Which is kind of strange considering he don't want to change babies' diapers. And people are like, wait a minute, what does that have to do with Nelly's music? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to St. Louis. I know somebody's going to be mad.
I was about to say, you from St. Louis now.
But, you know, like I said, I just am bothered. I'm bothered specifically by that, by him deciding to run with these talking points that he might have gotten, you know, when from Dr. Umar or 𝗕𝗥𝗓𝗓. Shout out to 𝗕𝗥𝗓𝗓. That's somebody I actually kind of rock with, even though I don't agree all the time. But like, this was a running narrative by a lot of people who didn't want to do their research, you know, during the course of the election, even going back to when she was the vice presidential candidate. It was like her white husband and her time as a prosecutor. And I think when he even refers to her as the prosecutor, that's you trying to engage a certain group of people who I don't want to say are in the streets, you know, be like, yeah, we can't trust any kind of law enforcement. And, you know, you threw her in that bag. Now, I'm also thinking, you know, big picture, regardless of what you feel about her politically or the misguided things you said about, you know, her family and her personal life, you gotta understand, like, Kamala is a part of an organization.
And before he says this, before he goes into this piece, like, everything that Nelly's doing right here is he's responding to backlash, and he's doubling down on the fact that, like, when you say something against his statement was something about, you know, Kamala supporters. You know, he didn't posit this in a way like, you know, like, I'm just a person that's out here. You know, I'm equally on both sides. You know, I think there's problems with, but he mentioned that, right? But then as soon as race is brought up a little bit, he goes directly to the right wing talking points to defend himself, which inherently, immediately turns him into a pawn of the conservatives. So whether he wants to be conservative or whether he aligns with that fully or not, he becomes that at this point.
Of women who wear pink and green.
Yeah, they don't play that shit.
They spread a lot of money around. They have the ear of a lot of people who are in and out of the entertainment industry. And this is something I don't know if he'll have the wherewithal to do it, but he needs to walk this back, especially talking about if you... Like I said, when you're in the entertainment industry and you're around athletes and you're going to try to make a point about perhaps your blackness because you're married to a black woman.
He's not married.
Or whatever.
I thought they got married.
Whatever they're doing. And
they did.
You know, part of how you can, you know, you elevate what you're saying is more credible because the person you're talking about is married to someone outside of their race. I think that's a bad look. That's a bad look, Nelly.
Well, I'll let you guys chime in here, but he follows up with saying, I'm a military baby with a grand uncle who is a Tuskegee Airman and Red Tail.
I try not to have any type of ill feelings towards military members because I understand how the United States government entices people to become in the military rather than give people health care and education and all this stuff. People resort to going to the military so that they can have these things. It's really kind of an interesting way to bribe citizens to go out and do stuff. And there's a lot of indoctrination involved in it.
Was very prideful in this country. I told you it's respect for the office, meaning any president that calls on Nelly, it would be an honor.
If Adolf Hitler was the president, is it an honor?
Nothing to do with money.
Everything.
Nothing to do with race. But if you want to make it about race, then let's go.
The earlier statement that I think Jace made about the fact that I wish everybody was as honest as Soulja Boy. Like, Nelly, if this is about the money because it was a good bag, just say it was about the money. People will forgive you. It's all good. You know, you're getting it. Like, there's at least you're a sellout, but not like there's levels to it. Say it's about the money because we all know that it is.
I find it very interesting that so many of you would dump on two black men that's married to black women that has black children because of the woman of color with a white husband and white kids didn't win.
These are just comments from somebody who's not very learned. It's just what it is.
So that's the continual quote.
He is no stranger to protest from women.
Yeah,
know what I
we
mean?
went through that at Spelman.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's all I had to really put in there. That
There
was
might
my
be some
2 cents.
resentment towards that as well.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But
Based on what it was about, yeah. Because
Yeah.
we kind of had addressed that at one point in time, thinking that was one of the reasons. Was it his sister?
Yeah,
Yes,
his sister.
she needed Jackie, God bless the dead. She she needed his bone marrow testing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I had my issues with them. You know, it was like, okay, you didn't like the tip drill video, fine, but like this, sometimes there's a bigger picture. to
And you
this
guys
sort
are
of thing.
talking specific because you guys
Yeah.
are talking about when Nelly
Yeah.
canceled something.
Exactly.
Or
He got
the
canceled.
reason
He was
he got canceled
Kind of-
because of the tip drill video.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When you talk,
And I think further, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was scheduled to do something. Was it like a fundraiser or something for his sister? And then they canceled him over the tip drill video or something like that.
the Greek, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? People that align with that. But I don't know, man. I think he kind of pretty much hit everything on the head. I don't have a whole lot to say about this Nelly situation because, I mean, it's just things that he's saying is just. No,
Baseless.
he's just, it's baseless, and he's not gonna pull any of this back. And I mean, he's at a point in his career where, I mean, I think he has a television show with Ashanti now.
yeah. So
That's why
This
this
is
all
all-
kind of came
this is-
out.
yeah, it's a rollout.
Yeah, this all has to do with that. Again, this is one of them situations where people will be upset for a little while and then it'll blow over.
Yep.
I don't think people really care that much about what Nelly has to say because I mean he's already showed his hand.
Yeah.
He stated what he was going to do, didn't care. He got on there and did it, and it's just baseless. And I hate that he's bringing it back to this makes him more American than anybody else just because he decided to do this.
It's this
And
false.
then-
this,
And then you go back to, well, since you want to bring it,
Yeah, it's
make it
deeper.
about race.
It's deeper into this whole. There's this really goofy narrative that goes around that because people on the left adjacent protest things that are going on in America or want things to be better in the country that they're from, want it to live up to the expectations that America should have, that for some reason, if you don't just blindly accept the fact that America is failing in these other areas, that you're less patriotic, that you're less American. I would argue that you are more American if you stand up when it's hard, as opposed to just accept what stuff is because it's easier for you. Does that make you a good American because you're selfish? I don't know. To me, that's not an American value that I care to hold on to and to keep.
And it's not about race, but you just made it about race. I think it was more so about the individual that you were supporting, not necessarily Kamala losing.
Yeah.
That's my basis on it.
Yeah, that's the other piece. Like the backlash at Nelly had nothing to do with Kamala Harris. It had nothing to do with her. It had to be the fact. It was the fact that, like, because I'm not a Kamala Harris fan. No, not at all. But I'm left. I'm on the left. You know, Kamala is a Democrat, but she's not left. She's a corporate Democrat. She align values with her values, and her party values align more with mine than what the conservatives do, but they still don't align with mine. And so, no, I don't like her. I like her more than Trump because what they do is better for people than what the conservatives do. But this wasn't a thing to where like he needed to reach out and say something about Kamala Harris. Like Kamala Harris has nothing to do with that. So the fact that he went there is just like, it's just ignorance.
We're going to run with their own narratives, especially when it comes to politics. It doesn't matter what kind of facts are on the table. If somebody says something that you felt like believing, they're not going off facts. They're going off whatever the mass majority of people that align with that system agree with, and they keep saying the same shit. I don't really have much to add other than that was just stupid.
Okay.
You know, when he talks about the whole, I have family in the military, you know, a lot of times people will use the military, their military involvement, or even their family's military involvement to kind of as a deflection away from seeing things that they know are wrong. You know, my grandfather fought in World War II as well. You know, they handed my grandmother, you know, the American flag at his funeral. You know, that does have a certain meaning for me as well. But we know too much.
Yeah.
Okay. If you read enough and you have watched the news enough about what Donald Trump has been doing, or his administration, if you will, because a lot of times I don't think he's.
Well, I guess it depends on like what news organization you're watching. If you're watching faux news, Fox News, which is really just an entertainment platform, I understand how you would believe a lot of this stuff because, wow. But even some of the liberal news is just, it's super biased in a more net positive a little bit, as where Fox News and a lot of the Turning Point stuff is just like, a lot of stuff is either just blatant hate or just conspiracy theory entertainment, nothing factual at all about it.
Even aware of the things that are done on his behalf. You know, if you want to talk about, respect.
But a lot of it is bad. Let me just say that.
The military, Nelly, let's talk about how they've been taking black soldiers' records off of military websites because it would be considered DEI. You know, let's talk about how the black Joint Chiefs has been removed. The 5-star general was removed and replaced by a 3-star general, which is, of course, a 3-star white general because, the black guy must have been there for DEI. And so let's put him out to pasture and replace him with somebody who is not as qualified as he is, because there's never been a 3-star general appointed to that position. So he hasn't done the research. There's a lot of people that don't want. We've talked about how people don't want to answer the follow-up questions. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know that they removed the black woman who was over the Library of Congress saying that she was distributing materials, that encourage LGBT behavior, not knowing that you can't check out books from the Library of Congress. There's all these things that if you really wanted to do the research, you could do it. But Nelly's not interested in that. He's just this is about him. It's not about us. And artists, a lot of times, especially if they've been extremely successful and made themselves extremely rich through their talent, which Nelly has done, they live in a bubble. And, they don't have to live with the consequences of what's happening by these Supreme Court, decisions that are happening that are just giving too much power to the executive branch. Yep. And, this big, beautiful bill that basically just passed that is going to kick about 14 to 20 million people off of their health care.
Yep.
People such as myself.
Yes.
I'm not on Medicaid, so that I was just being stupid there. But like, I definitely can't afford healthcare as it is, and with the premiums going up, it's not that I can't afford it. It's just it dips too much into my regular income. So, me and the wife have decided to get healthcare in a different country, generally speaking, because she's from a different country, and we go visit at least once a year. So we're just planning our healthcare around that because it's just not reasonable. So
you want to make it personal, like I'll make it personal. Or if I want to talk about the fact.
My statement there was, the joke was more so about the fact that this bill is making it harder for people to have healthcare. It's going to kill people. It's going to kill a lot of people. And we should be going in the other direction. But again, we live in a country that is, one side has no empathy. There's like a complete lack of empathy. It's a very selfish type of embodiment and a very lack of care for others, all based around this idea of you don't have value if you don't work hard in a specific type of place. I don't subscribe to that. I think people have value that's beyond how much money they bring to the table. I think just we've been trained to believe that. And when that belief embodies an entire political party, realistically, it embodies most Americans in general, we attach our worth to it. And if you haven't deconstructed that at all, then that's just like something that lives within you that you just think is a given. Worth is how much money. Worth is how much work you do. Work is how much value. And, the more elevated mindset, and I'm not even trying to like posit it as some type of like being better than somebody, but it is a different type of mental approach to approach people from. Look at it this way. Maybe this will make more sense. It's like when you meet somebody for the first time and you ask them about themselves as opposed to what they do. We're trained to just ask people what they are or what they do and base their entire character on it. try not to do that. I don't want to do that because people are more than just the thing that they do, more than just the work that they do, more than just the work that they do that is related to some type of money. Like money is made up. You know, it's very real, but it's a made up thing that we base our worth on. Very fascinating. Anyways,
facts and what's really going on out here, you know, but you can't say these things and not expect any blowback, especially when there are people who have done the research and who are affected by what this, you know, you can say, oh, I did it for the office. Look, at this point, when people say, oh, I went to it's an honor to be invited to the White House. At this point, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. And people can get mad at me about that, whatever. But if I was on, I don't know, whatever team.
Why would I go? Why would I go? There's a bunch of hate-filled people there. It's not an honor. It's not an honor because the position has been like, the honor's been removed from it. Like, it's supposed to be this prestigious thing that cares about the American people. It cares about humanity, cares about those that, all of us. And it's turned into this thing that with certain administrations that only cares about very specific people. And I'm cool.
Wins a championship and they say, hey, you want to come to the White House? I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm not going.
Yeah, I think stuff like this.
I know too much. At this time, we know too much, guys. We know too much, Nelly.
It's with, I mean, stuff like this, when somebody like Nelly in this particular thing, he makes the stance that he does. To Jay's point, just say that you wanted to take the money. Just say that.
We would all understand that.
And it would be over. But the fact that he has to try to make it political means that I have to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think further, like, it's not that I would agree with it, but at least he was honest. It's like one thing to be like deceitful. And I think that's the one thing about his statement that just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Because all these things are very, the stuff, even when he says like the right is too far right and the left is too far left, you said you agree with it. I think that's bullshit. And I think that's just pandering because he doesn't want to go further down the line. He wants to stand right in the middle of this shit.
That's most people though.
I know.
That's not me.
I know. It's not me at all. It's not me at all. Like
right now, the right is so right that it is really going to hurt a lot of people. You know,
I think I'm going to do a full breakdown, like a short form video on like all of the negative impacts of this like big, beautiful bullshit bill or whatever it's called, because it's there's a lot of misinformation in it. I'll break that down in another video, maybe on like my personal Instagram or something. So look out for that if you're interested.
I'm one of those people who I'll give you statistics to see where, like, realize 4 out of every 10 births in this country is covered by Medicaid. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if they cut that, and they're so worried about, these people, these women who delete their children, it's like, okay, either I pay that money to have that happen, or I wind up getting a crippling medical debt to have a child.
Yeah.
So now you're putting people who may not even want to make that kind of moral decision into the place where they have to make a financial decision.
Yeah, it is bigger than that. I mean, it's also nursing homes. It's all the things that the Medicaid covers. It's like, if it goes away, it's going to dig into generational wealth as well, which is another thing which is ironic with the conservative right-wing party, is because it's when that goes away, as these boomers get older, and that money goes away, that money that would typically be passed down to a younger generation, that money's going to be sent and have to pay. It's going to have to be paid by the people, because that's not going to be there. So, and I saw one number where it was like $8,000 to $12,000 a month, which ironically, I also saw somebody make a video that said this is also why this won't go very far, because it's going to collapse an entire system, all for, tax breaks for the rich.
Yeah, but even for like the positing, I'm a left person, so the idea and
it's like Jay, you can see Jay is visibly, like in this clip, like you can see that he's visibly upset right now by this conversation.
Routinely suggested that we have two extremes on both sides is just so
misrepresented.
It's not true at all. It's almost like laughably true, because we don't actually have left representation in the United States of America. And so
we do have some people kind of, like, you can say AOC is kind of left. She's a little bit left. Obviously people are up in arms about the quote unquote socialists that won the mayor position in New York, and all the racism, the crazy amount of racism that's coming out. Xenophobia because he's Muslim is kind of crazy, even from politicians right now. But like all because he's a self-proclaimed socialist. I don't think most of y'all know that are upset know what socialism is. I just don't think y'all know. Y'all know based upon what Fox News tells you and what has been passed down from the boomer generation or the parents before that. Y'all don't really know. All y'all say is like, oh, what about Cuba? Oh, or what about that? Like, y'all can't even define it. Your definition of socialism is Cuba, which is communist, but or attempted to be communist. But like, your definition can't be like, you can't describe something like, give me the definition of it. The crazy thing is socialism isn't way different from capitalism, but it's a branch off of it. I think most people that are so anti-afraid of socialism actually would rock with it if the propaganda wasn't as bad. Actually, I know that's true. Anyways,
when you look at the political parties of the Democrat and the Republicans, who both more aligned to the right, like they both
this is
align
what
to
I was
the right.
talking about earlier.
Somebody who's actually left over here is like, what are y'all talking about? And so when Nelly makes a statement like this, it's like, it's just pandering. It's just like, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's all in the sense, like he's saying it to defend his whole thing. But like, if you don't know, then you don't need to be speaking on it, because it just makes it worse for everybody else. It perpetuates this long lie.
That's interesting. So I'm seeing Shasta B. Holcomb here. He says, and they, quote unquote, want to increase the birth rates. That's very interesting, because that is when you factor in the fact that there's a group of white supremacists that are afraid of it's like the great replacement theory of white people being replaced. And Elon wants birth rates to increase. All these people want birth rates to increase, but they do it because they need labor. They need labor for their jobs. Well, they want birth rates to increase. Never mind.
So this is what it is. But
well, damn.
But what do you think about, like, why? I want to ask you that question.
Yeah, well, you can have a rebuttal.
No, yeah, I'm
I'm saying, why y'all cooking this nigga like that? That's what I'm saying. Like,
well, I think
I get it. I get it.
I think it's necessary. I think to me, we in general, as you know, I forget who said it. I think maybe you said it. It's like most people are just kind of passive when it comes to this stuff, and you know,
I think he is. That's why he keeps.
No, he's uninformed. He's ignorant.
He's informed by.
I don't think he's
the wrong people.
No, it's like when I've talked about.
He didn't do his own research.
It's like when I talk about people who get all their knowledge from memes. That's
exactly what it is.
Those are the people who are still talking about Kamala being married to a white man and what she did as a prosecutor. Those are the people who haven't done the actual research or even been interested enough to listen to the people who have done the research.
Or will just deny the research because
because they need those checks to clear.
Yeah, I don't know, like. In general, like, not to like target you or anything, but when you say like, not
before I jump into this, like the passive, I think most Americans are actually pretty passive about politics. I mean, and I think it's pretty evident in the fact that like more people didn't vote than voted for either party this last time. You know, most people have just a very basic understanding, just a very basic loose understanding. Most people, even though they may align a little bit on one side or think that they do from one side or the other, a lot of times it's just passed down generationally. You know, it's not people don't want to focus on the politics. A lot of people don't want to focus on it, especially white people. Don't want to focus on the politics because we have the privilege, honestly, to ignore this stuff for the most part if we want to. But because generally things are going to be okay, especially if you're a little middle and above that, but class-wise. But not really. I think that's the thing is like the more informed people are, the more learned people get, the more that we realize, just like Jay said, like there's too much information to like, it's like the ignorance is bliss thing. The more you know, the more frustrated you get. It's hard not to be extremely frustrated at the dumb shit when you are learned. And me, as somebody who grew up in a conservative household, but conservative family. And in my late teens, I dated somebody who was super Republican, super Christian. I wasn't really Christian or Republican, but I was kind of leaning Republican just because of my family. That had to do a lot of unlearning, in my early to mid to later 20s to even into my 30s, for that matter. Like a lot of us are indoctrinated into just believing a specific type of way. And it takes a lot sometimes for us to like really care enough to look deeper in this stuff if we don't feel like there's a reason to. Especially if like, all right, who's up for voting? Like if there's nothing that like really affects us, we can just ride with the talking points. And that's what Nelly is representing here.
You believe that the right's too far right and the left is too far left. What do you mean by that in general?
I mean, like I'm pretty much down the middle, man. Like, and I know there's extremists over here and there's extremists over there. You know what I mean? Because like the last administration really wasn't that great either. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of bullshit over there too.
Most people that are like down the middle in general, it's just they see both sides of capitalism. When you look at when you say something like, you know, the left did stuff that was bad and the right did something that's bad, I just want to know, like, what are we referring to?
I think what you're saying is it's not actually the ideology. It's the people that agree or are for this person or for this individual. So you got the people that rock with Trump and you had the people that rock with Biden
and the Democratic Party. Yeah.
They are supporters of that individual. That's not when it comes to actually policies and things that people believe in, they could care less. Yeah. It's more so aligning with whatever this person says and what they're doing, and then the same thing. Yeah,
it's gangbanging.
That's exactly. I mean, that's what a political party is at the end of the day. But I don't think when it comes down to actual policies and beliefs that I agree with what Lone said. As far as there's not really a right or a left here. There's just
right
people
or wrong.
It's shades of right.
Just people that
shades of people on the right.
Yeah, that's all it is. Like the way that I always like to describe it, I'm not going to go deep into this, is like most places in the world, the left is socialism ideologies and the right is capitalism.
In America, it's all mostly,
capitalism.
Yeah.
Like even our centrists are to the right. Even Bernie Sanders is considered central.
Capitalist.
Central a little bit to the right, you know, like democratic socialist, but like you could actually say he's a little bit to the left maybe, but we just don't have a balance. So a lot of the narratives that I always see, especially in like defending a lot of these policies that are horrible, you know, especially like the immigration policies and stuff like that. Again, we're off on a tangent here, but like it's all very reactionary. It's all very there is not a strong enough movement on the left-hand side to be able to stop a lot of the stuff that Trump is just enacting right now.
Because they don't even agree with a lot of stuff he's doing right now.
But it's just like the people that are like kind of normal. I feel like I generally feel that most of us generally align kind of in the middle and maybe probably slight to the left outside of when it comes to like social related stuff and caring about people. I think most people care about people regardless.
Yeah, what I'm saying in general is I feel like even though we've been kind of brainwashed into thinking left Democrat, right Republican, I think generally speaking, most people are left. Most people are. Some people have really, really strong religious beliefs. Some people have really, really strong libertarian beliefs, such that, I mean, when we look at the political spectrum, we say left and right like it's liberal and conservative, but I don't know if you guys have ever seen, maybe I'll throw it up on the screen, the actual political table that showcases all the different, you know, how to actually, it's like a matrix essentially, how to actually look at this. And it's not as simple as left and right. And there's a lot of information about that. But I think generally speaking, most people kind of want the same thing. Most people are generally, decent people. And socially, most people do fall a little bit to the left. I feel like it's just indoctrination that pushes people really, really far to the right. I know I'm biased.
Then all the other stuff kind of gets in the way. Wanting to be an allegiance, you know, align with a certain party, wanting to be a Democrat or wanting to be a conservative or wanting to be a businessman or wanting to be these things. And we kind of align ourselves with these ideas, you know, these.
And that's another point. It's like when you think, oh, yeah, I really like entrepreneurship, so that means that I am a conservative. There's people that literally believe this. You know what I mean? Like I am probably more of an entrepreneur than most people I have met. And I am completely on the other side. So, you know, like businesses still exist in socialism and social, you know, it's the distribution of labor. You know, just look into it more.
These things instead of like where we actually like, because we want to fit into a category or something. But yeah, to bring it all back around, like stuff like this, like I almost didn't bring this up as a subject because I knew it would get political.
And I say that not because I don't want to talk about politics, but I knew that this particular conversation was going to go super political. And I personally believe that politics is important and it's important to talk about, but I try my best not to inject my own personal beliefs on these things on our show as much as possible. There's probably a lot of people that are either haven't tuned out already. If you're still watching, that means that you're actually interested in this stuff. But most people watch, and as soon as they see that it's a little bit political or it's a little bit challenging of one of those beliefs, they turn it off. They're not interested in it. And that's, whatever, like, I don't think it's cool, but like, and maybe you don't like what I'm talking about, which is whatever. But most people don't care. They just don't care.
Whenever stuff like this is represented from somebody who's in hip hop, it's just kind of like,
how do we not say anything?
How do we not say anything? And I just feel like I feel like it's from somebody like Nelly. I feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel it's, he needs to do better.
Irresponsible was the thing that I was looking for.
It just doesn't surprise me, honestly. That's when a lot of these artists, especially somebody in his position that has been very successful. Again, we talk about capitalism. The party that is going to more so support what he's doing is going to align with that, with the right. You know what I'm saying? So, and these are people.
And again, he says this, and I also will push back a little bit because I feel like that is just. You would think so, right? You would think so. But it's really not the case. Like, unless you're just talking about specifically like tax breaks and trying to cheat the system. Like, if your entire goal in business is to cheat the system, like, what are we talking about? Don't get me wrong. The fact that, like, in this big, beautiful bill or whatever, the fact that they're like taking certain tax breaks are being readjusted as a business owner, and somebody on the left. Yeah, it's something that I can very easily write off, especially as somebody who doesn't make a ton of money on the businesses I do, because I don't run my businesses for financial gain. At least that's not the inherent main reason. But like, you can still do this. Like, you don't have to be like, business can be functional both ways. And I personally believe that if you're going to run a business and you can't pay your taxes and you can't pay your employers or employees and all that stuff, then your business plan is probably a little faulty.
People that a lot of these rappers have rapped about and aspired to be as well. That's why a lot of times it does not, especially when it comes to subject matter of some of these people that rap about. He's never talked about social injustices and things of that nature.
Maybe he has. I don't know. I think the only thing that stands out to me is the fact that he doubled down on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the only thing. Because just to have a statement and to be not as learned or whatever.
That's in right now. It's in to stand on what you say now. And it's not going to, obviously it didn't affect him. It didn't affect him negatively when he did it the first time. He got a show out of it with his wife. I guess he is married to her. Yeah. About their with including their child as well. So, I mean, it's not affecting these people's bottom line. If anything, it's getting other people to pay attention to him.
Right.
True.
That weren't paying attention to him in the first place.
This is a rollout.
But the thing is, even if he wanted to say, hey, I did this because I respect the office. I had a grandfather who was, a red tail or whatever. Okay. But then when you bring in Kamala's white husband and, then you start running with the meme knowledge, then it's like, all right, now we got to cook you a little bit, because if you didn't have the knowledge, then we're going to give it to you. And like I said, it was a short sheet of things that I just could pull from, my brain while we're sitting here talking about things where if you are about your grandfather's legacy, you should be bothered by the things that he's done or have been done on his behalf to Black veterans and how they've been erased from the Department of Defense's website.
Yeah, like you can honor your grandfather and also be realistic about what is happening
in the country.
That's the thing that it's also kind of jumps out to me.
I've got 2 words.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Where's Ja? Because ultimately, for me, this is that. It's Ja Rule talking about politics.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a for real. You know what I mean? Like, okay, he just proved he's an idiot. So,
or just like I don't even say he's an idiot, but it's just like
he's not informed.
He's not like he doesn't sit down and read the paper every day. He doesn't understand what's being passed through Congress and the Senate.
Yeah, I think it's bigger than just being informed. Because it's hard to be informed in politics. Like, even myself, somebody who like consumes a lot of this stuff and pays attention to a lot of this stuff. Like, I have weeks where I'm just busy doing work. Like, I'm busy doing something. Like, I'm caught up in music, or I'm caught up in new old head stuff, or bringing down the band stuff, or academic stuff. I'm just busy doing things or just life stuff. And I don't check the news for a week, right? And then I'm like, man, I'm behind. Okay, this happened and this happened. But the thing is like most people aren't like that. Most, it's not that most people are uninformed. It's that most people don't care to be informed. And they're just looking for that minimum threshold.
These are not things that, he's...
Like, I doubt Nelly cares about any of these things that he's talking about outside of trying to defend himself.
TV show on a kid to raise and and teeth to brush. He's got to do these things and he doesn't have the time to. I'm sorry, all celebrities. If you go get out here and get your teeth done, I understand. Look, I would get a couple of my teeth fixed if I had the money like that, but I'm not going to get the extra larges. Get the teeth that would actually fit in your mouth. This needs to stop. Noriega, you two, I don't know where you got that hairline
mouth almighty
or all them chiclets. Like it doesn't look realistic, especially when you point HD cameras at it.
Yeah.
So that was a tangent. I'm sorry, but but for real, like
I got a lot on my mind right now. I wish I could have articulated everything a little bit better, but I think overall, like it's not really surprising. I don't like the fact that he doubled down, and I just wish we cared more about this stuff. That's all.
Yeah.
Yep. That's about it. I don't know. That last piece I said was really kind of the whole thing. Like, I really do wish people were more informed, and I wish people cared to be more informed about this stuff. I know this is a hip hop channel. We talk about hip hop, and this is super political, but life is political, and you can't go through life without being political. Politics isn't everything. Politics affects everything. Politics affects lives, and it affects hip hop too. And this is the culture of being a human being, and being a human being in the United States of America. This stuff is important. So, learn more. I don't know. Just, I think as a general thing, we all need to just continually try and aspire to do better, and strive to be a lifelong learner. Anyways, this has been Unpacked. Thank you if you've watched all the way to the end. Appreciate you. And I'll be back with another one. Again, New Old Heads. If you want to support the show, it's patreon.com/newoldheads. You can become a member for $5 a month. You can get all our uncut 2-hour shows. Otherwise, I drop these, a few of these a week. I accidentally deleted all my videos after I made them last week, except for one of them. So that's why I only dropped one last week, but I won't do that this week. So until next time, peace.